into the pie. Most of the things we have picked from the farm today, fresh herbs and various greens. So for this recipe, we're going to use around 1 kilo of wild spinach or greens that you like at home, such as kale or chard. We're gonna use around 50 grams of poppy seeds later, I think. Also, we're gonna include 2 dried onions. You can use red or yellow or white onions for that. 2 scallions, fresh onions. 2 bunches of fennel fronds. So the top part of the fennel, the green leafy part that's on top. 1 bunch spearmint. I like a little more mint personally, but you can decide. Let's see, you're also going to use around 1 teaspoon or 2 of salt. You'll taste the filling before you put it in to bake it to make sure it's salted how you like. 1 teaspoon of black pepper. 1 teaspoon or 2 of dried oregano, which we're also using that we harvested last year and dried. We do a lot of drying of our products to use for future times. And then, of course, a generous amount of olive oil. We're going to use around 200 milliliters, maybe more, for the filling. Our olive oil is super special because this is the olive farm and we harvest our own olives to make this very special, super healthy and clean product. So, should we begin the chopping, my friend?
Yes.
Okay, so the next part of this process is a lot of chopping. So, let's do it. These greens are super beautiful. Gianni, dime αυτό.
So, this is it's a wild spinach. It's very nice here because it's a wild without to touch, the natural or the farm or something. Grows up alone. It's very strong spinach. All this spinach is very healthy. So we have also zohia. Zohos is very favorite green for the Greeks, and sescula and some others called lapatha, like I have some here maybe. Yeah, here we have many bits of Julie. Lapatho, it's like this one, spinach, zophos, we have mironia, fennel, oregano. We can put any fresh herb who love, like basil, like marjoram, and inside. Cook its fantasy. And for the pies, we used any ingredient who we have fresh or not.
It's very common as you're kind of tooling around the village or on your way to another place to see people with baskets or bags on the side of the road just harvesting wild greens. It's pretty great. It's not something we see in the States ever, but very common here because there's abundance. It grows wild, like Gianni was saying. Like what we would consider a weed at home is a highly nutritious, valued part of this diet. So it's pretty cool to learn how to use it.
Just I chopped fennel, and for people who know about the Greek alcohol, smell like ouzo. It's the most Greek traditional alcohol. Oof.
So we want to kind of pretty finely chop all of these ingredients because we're going to end up baking this in the phyllo for a little less than an hour, around an hour. So we want it to be chopped nice and fine so that anything that has a high fiber quantity or is a little bit tough as a green has a chance to sort of soften. So we'll get it pretty finely chopped. So I'm going to about this amount of chopped.
So all the greens, all the herbs we'll put in a big pan to shake it and
mix it all together thoroughly.
Fennel.
also, another thing I really like about this pie is that it has year-round seasonality. So you can work with whatever greens are growing or available around you at your own farmer's market or in your garden maybe. And they can change throughout the year. It's really a pretty flexible range of greens that you can use here.
Yes, Julie, correct.
Let's talk about the option of adding cheese. We didn't include cheese in our recipe because we don't have any right now, but normally we like to put in a little bit of feta cheese. I also enjoy Graviera cheese, which is another very commonly made, deliciously made cheese available here for us. Anyway, you can add in around 200 grams of your favorite cheese. Maybe that's Parmesan cheese at home, some Reggiano Parmesan. Maybe that's Taleggio cheese from Italy. Whatever you like to add to it to give it a little bit of extra flavor.
So Graviera cheese is only local from Crete. It's a local cheese from goat milk. And it's very popular here because all the shepherds make that cheese. It's yellow and called Graviera. It's fantastic cheese.
And Gianni, what milk do they typically use for Graviera? Is it a blend of sheep and cow's milk, or?
No, it's only from goat milk.
Goat milk.
Graviera, yeah. But also, and here it's very interesting feta cheese because in Crete, people who make feta cheese, they do with a mix of milks from goats, from sheep, from cows, depends. And the result is crazy good because feta cheese is a big story. And it's for people who they don't know this cheese very well. It's very, very easy to confuse them to buy any other who call the Greek style cheese or white cheese or white like a feta cheese. This is not the real feta cheese. This is something different. Anyway, and here in this piece we can to make also with the same way without greens, with feta cheese and some different things to change complete the pie. It's exactly the same way. Julien.
Great. Yeah, it's every time we make this pie at home, it's a little bit different. When we teach this, we stick pretty closely to a recipe, but it's fun to play with different things that you like. For example, we preserve a lot of our cherry tomatoes from our summer harvest. And we do that with the traditional method of sun drying them. First we salt them, let the salt do its work to extract the moisture, and then after a couple days in the sun, the cherry tomatoes are dry and sweet. And then we finish them by putting them in our olive oil with a little bit of garlic and basil. So this sun-dried tomato product is super versatile, and sometimes we'll throw in some of the oil from that and some of the sun-dried tomatoes, and that adds another whole palette to the greens pie that I like.
So we can to find some from Bruce. Bruce has some jars.
Our friends Bruce and Claudine are super big supporters of us. We appreciate them greatly, and I think we have a similar vision and value system around nutrition and healthy food, and really kind of understanding your sources and what's available to you. Anyway, thanks Bruce and Claudine.
Thank you.
Okay, how are we doing? We're getting there. So we're making a really big pie today because we like to make this and just kind of eat it for a couple of days. The phyllo dough, as delicate as it looks, really holds up nicely with this pie. So you can make a large batch. You know, it's kind of like lasagna. You make one big one and you enjoy it for several days. So we're gonna do that. Start mixing these a little bit and really smell the herbs and the onion and the earthiness of the greens. It's amazing. Wow, the fennel is super bright. measure as Gianni finishes cutting up the onions. And then we will season it and let it sit for a little while so it can soften.
And this time I don't cry from the onion, eh?
Weird.
Strange.
Huh. That is strange. I'm not crying either.
Yeah.
Which is just strange on its own, given the circumstances. Okay, so Gianni, maybe you could start adding in the rest of the ingredients while I finish chopping this. I think we're gonna have enough greens here, babe.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, we're coming at you from our kitchen in the house. It's a beautiful day here on the farm, but it's real windy, so that makes it difficult to hear, and yeah, just a lot of wind. It's typical spring weather here.
Yeah, actually we like to cook outside. We have chicken outside in the farm, in the garden, but not for these days. It's a little bit winter.
A little windy, a little cold. Alright. It's gonna be delicious. Okay, so I think that's it. I'll start adding these ingredients then while Gianni finishes the spinach.
Yeah, it's the last leaves.
Okay, so we're gonna do our salt.
Of course.
Might need a bit more of that. Pepper. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah,
you
I like spice.
Okay, so that was about 2.5 teaspoons of pepper, and I think we're gonna up the salt a little bit because we are working with a lot of greens. And depending on the cheese you use, if you decide to add that in, that will add a salty flavor to the pie, so just be aware. And also, just we're gonna do this today because I love them. These are our sun-dried tomatoes. I'm gonna add some of those and the oil in to give it a different type of flavor. Yeah, so you can see here we have a lot of greens.
Julien.
Super healthy. Okay, here we go.
Again to say.
So here's the olive oil that has been marinating these sun-dried tomatoes. So it's also infused with the tomato flavor, garlic and basil as well. And then I'm going to add, go ahead, yeah. This is dried oregano from the farm as well. And you want to crush it with your hands before you put it in because there's some stems in there. I'm gonna add a couple generous spoonfuls of sun-dried tomatoes. Great.
I love it.
And what else?
Couscous.
Okay, so in Crete, this is called trahana. It's
In Greece, actually, yeah.
in Greece, okay. Yeah, it's a traditional pasta made much like couscous, the Moroccan couscous. Gianni's mom made this actually, and I hope to get the recipe from her at some point. Here comes the olive oil. So you can see the rich color and viscosity of the olive oil in its plain form. So we already added some from the tomatoes. We don't want to go overboard with that here. So Gianni put a slightly less amount of the regular olive oil in to make it complete. And then you just get in there with your hands, just like he's doing. This is part of why we love cooking, is because you get your hands in it, you get a little dirty. It's the same thing with farming or gardening, getting your hands dirty.
Yeah. With current values now, it's not so.
Okay,
Anyway.
so anyway, there's a massage happening in the bowl, in case you can't tell. So with the ingredients added, we want to kind of actually start to massage these greens to make them feel a little bit softer, less crunchy maybe.
Yeah, and we are ready to continue with the dough to make pillow for the pie. Great. So, here again, we have the dough, it's almost ready. And now we must to separate in 6 pieces because we'll need 6 filo for our pie. We try to make some pieces the same size, more or less. Okay, we work now with this one. We start to play with our hands and to make a little bit the size like a pie. We open the pastry like this way, and our gun for this is the corn flour necessary or something like this. This is help our filo to keep open without has many elastic problem or something like this. And we are ready with the second gun, this one, Julien, to open the filo. Of course we need space because the filo will make a very big for the pan. When we see our filo is like elastic or don't grows up with our moves, we use more corn. So we work with our fingers from the center, like this way in the sides, with that way and around. We help our filo to open, like the size who we have our pan. Also, filo must use the same fat, not in one side, for example, here 2 centimeters and here 1 centimeter. It's not so good after for the flavor.
So in the background, I am getting ready this large baking dish by just lightly coating the whole inside with olive oil to prepare for the first layer of phyllo dough.
Slowly, our phyllo, it's a big, it's a fun job for the beginners, but it's a nice food.
And sometimes we make the Greek pies more like a hand pie, like an empanada shape in like a half moon. And in that way you can choose whether you'd like to fry them. They're delicious fried in olive oil or baked the way we're going to show you here. It's looking really good.
So we need 3 for the bottom, 3 phyllo for the bottom, and 3 for the top. Between we'll put the greens. Why 3? I don't know why. My grandmother teach me with this way, and okay, I know. I think if you put less or more phyllo in the green pie, it's not so good for the flavor when you cook it in the oven, because my grandma with 3 phyllo in the bottom and 3 in the top knows that exactly 40-45 minutes wants to cook in the oven, in the good oven. We are ready.
Okay, I'll bring it to you. So we're gonna lay the phyllo into the pan, allowing a little bit of excess to hang over one side so that when it rolls over, the whole pan is covered. It's a little tricky to try to fix that once you've rolled it out. So you want to allow some extra here, and hopefully you'll make it to the end. So what we're gonna do, since I've already lightly oiled the pan, we're gonna kind of help the dough adhere to the sides of the pan, trying to eliminate any bubbles that might form between the dough and the pan. And just a very gentle, I'm kind of lifting the edge and pressing the side of the dough to sort of stick to the oil I've placed there earlier. And then you're not left with like air pockets between the pan and your greens pie. So that looks good. So I'll show you kind of what that looks like before we do the second layer of oil. So you can see it's just touching all the sides of the pan.
If you try for first time to make a phyllo and you have some scratch or some incorrect things,
Some tears, yeah.
some tears or something like this, don't worry, because we'll cover with the second phyllo and the third phyllo also. So we can to use the, if you have smaller than this from your pan, I mean, you can to use the half phyllo and the next to cover the other half side.
Yeah, you can patch it together. Okay, so I will start doing the next layer of oil, and Gianni, you can start rolling out your next phyllo.
2 more.
2 more.
And break.
Okay, cut. Oopsie. All right, I'm gonna start to add my oil to this first layer of dough. Nope, second layer of dough. Y me vio, no? Hello. So I'm just going to very lightly brush the edges, the base of course. And you don't want like a pool of oil in the in the bottom of the pan. You just want a very light brushing of it. Make sure that everything is laid in there nicely. Yeah, so we'll do a total of 3 layers of dough before we put the greens filling in the middle.
Julie.
Hi. All right, so we're ready. We now have 3 layers of phyllo with olive oil between, and now we're gonna add the greens as the middle part. So we're gonna kind of push them down as we layer them in so it layers evenly and we can fit it all in there. This is like the greens lover's dream. There's so many greens in here, it's insane. And you just feel healthy when you eat this because it's so good for you.
It smells fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Almost there. One more bit. Great. Okay, so the greens are in, it's just the right amount. And then we're gonna continue layering phyllo on top of this. We'll do 3 more layers. So Gianni has the next layer ready. So go ahead and
Yeah, before must put a little olive oil. You know, I love olive oil because we have a lot of here. We are in the olive farm. Perfect.
Great. Okay, so from here, we're gonna do the same method we've been doing, which is to put a light coat of olive oil on top of here, and then we'll continue with the next 2 layers. It's the moment that we've all been waiting for. The greens pie is finished. It looks like that, and it's beautiful. So let's cut it and see what it's like. I'm gonna take a corner piece. I always like the edges and corners of things. Great. And lift that out. Looks like that inside. Delicious, still steaming hot. And we'll put that right here. And we'll finish with a little bit of our olive oil to give it some shine and additional deliciousness.
Julien, can I take for me?
Sure.